I was holding a tray of coffees with both hands when my uncle's voice cut through the lobby like a slap. Look at you. I froze mid-step, the paper cups trembling so hard the lids clicked. He stood near the revolving door in a threadbare coat that was 2 sizes too big, his cheeks hollow, his beard patchy like he had forgotten what mirrors were for. But his eyes were the same. Fulfilled. Like the world still owed him something. After everything I did for you, he said louder so the receptionist turned her head, you're really going to pretend you don't know me? My co-workers at the front desk fell silent. One of them, Tessa, stopped typing. Another one, Mark, looked from my face to his, like he was waiting to see if this was a prank. My throat tightened. I could feel my pulse in my ears. Because I did know him. I knew him the way you know a scar on your own skin. He took a step forward and smiled like we were sharing a joke. It's me, he said. Uncle Ray. Your family. Then he glanced at the coffees and added with a little laugh, you still serving people, huh? The humiliation hit me hot and fast. Not because he called me out. Because he did it at my job on purpose in front of people whose respect I had spent years earning. And he did it like I owed him kindness. Like he hadn't thrown me out of his home at age 9. I set the tray down on the lobby table slowly, careful not to spill anything. My fingers were steady even though my stomach was twisting. Ma'am, the security guard asked quietly, stepping closer, do you know him? Uncle Ray lifted his hands like he was harmless. Of course she knows me. I'm her uncle. She's just shocked because she hasn't seen me in a while. He leaned closer, lowering his voice, but not enough. I hit a rough patch, he said. I need help. I know you have a good job now. My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. I could smell him. Old sweat. Cigarette smoke. Cold air trapped in fabric. Tessa's eyes flicked to mine. Concern. Curiosity. That second-hand embarrassment people get when something private spills into public. I forced a small smile. Not warm. Controlled. I know who you are, I said. And you need to leave. Uncle Ray's smile dropped for half a heartbeat. Then he laughed like I had told a cute joke. Come on, he said. Don't do this here. We're family. Family. That word tasted like metal in my mouth. Because family doesn't leave you on a stranger's porch in the middle of the night. Family doesn't tell everyone you were too difficult to love. And family doesn't show up 22 years later expecting gratitude. He took out a wrinkled envelope and slapped it onto the lobby table. I wrote you a letter, he announced, loud enough for 2 guests checking in to glance over. A letter, I repeated softly. He nodded, eyes shining with fake emotion. I've been thinking about you. About what happened when you were a kid. I want to make things right. My hands tightened around the edge of the table. 9-year-old me flashed in my head, standing on a porch in socks, holding a plastic grocery bag with my clothes, watching his front door shut. His wife pulling the curtains closed. His voice saying, not my problem. I inhaled slowly. Then I did the only thing that kept me from losing control. I turned to security. Please escort him out. Uncle Ray's face tightened. You're really going to do that? After everything? I met his eyes. After everything, I echoed. And as the guard stepped closer, Uncle Ray's voice rose, sharp and accusing. She's cold, he told the lobby. She always was. Even as a kid. I felt the old shame try to crawl up my throat. But this time I didn't swallow it. This time I remembered something. Cold is what you become when you learn warmth isn't safe. And I wasn't 9 anymore. My manager, Brent, came out of the back office, brows drawn together. What's going on? He asked, scanning the scene. Uncle Ray turned to him instantly, switching to victim mode like flipping a light. Sir, he said, I just need 2 minutes with my niece. I'm homeless. She's all I got. Brent looked at me. Is that true? Kept my voice even. He's my uncle, I said. And he's not welcome here. Brent hesitated. Not because he doubted me. Because people like Uncle Ray weaponize pity. Brent nodded toward the guard. Please remove him. Uncle Ray's mouth twisted. You're going to regret this, he hissed at me as security guided him toward the doors. Then he said it loud. You owe me. The words landed like a hook in my ribs. Because he knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted everyone to look at me like I was the villain. And the worst part? It almost worked. I could feel eyes on me. Judgment. Questions. Mark shifted uncomfortably. Tessa looked away. Even Brent seemed uncertain, like he was wondering if he'd just helped me make a terrible mistake. But I stood there, shoulders back, refusing to let Uncle Ray rewrite history in my workplace. After he was gone, the lobby slowly started breathing again. Tessa slid one of the coffees closer to me. Do you want to talk about it? I shook my head once. Not here. My hands were still trembling, so I folded them under the desk where no one could see. Brent pulled me aside near the housekeeping cart. If he comes back, he said quietly, we can trespass him. I nodded. Thank you. Then he added, is everything okay at home? I almost laughed. Home. I had built my life so carefully. Stable. Quiet. Controlled. And now a man who hadn't said my name in 20 years had walked into my workplace and tried to rip it open like a wound. I forced a calm exhale. I'm fine, I said. I just didn't expect him to show up here. Brent frowned. How did he know where you work? That question made my skin go cold. Because I didn't know. And someone must have told him. I thought about the family I'd cut off years ago. The cousins who friended me on social media then disappeared. The aunts who only called when they needed something. Someone had been watching. Someone had been talking. And Uncle Ray had been listening. My name is Looney Harlow. I'm 31 years old. I work at the front desk of a busy hotel in downtown Indianapolis. It's long shifts on my feet, constant problem solving and smiling when you feel like collapsing. But it pays my bills and it's mine. I grew up in foster care after my mother died. My father was never in the picture. The only blood relative who ever took me in was my Uncle Ray. For 8 months. Then one night when I was 9, he decided I was too much trouble. He drove me to a neighbor's porch at midnight, dropped my bag and told the neighbor he was bringing me back tomorrow. He never came back. The neighbor called CPS. Uncle Ray told everyone I was a troubled kid, who he couldn't handle. And I learned early that people can abandon you and still feel entitled to your gratitude. So when he showed up in my lobby calling me family, my body reacted before my brain could. But the real problem wasn't his audacity. It was how he found me. Every foster kid learns the same thing. When someone from your past finds you, it's rarely an accident. It's always strategic. And it's never about love. On my break, I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from an unknown number. A voicemail. Uncle Ray's voice, scratchy and pleased. Hey kid. I know where you work now. We need to talk. You can't run from family. My stomach flipped. Not fear. Disgust. Then another notification. A message request from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years, Marlene. I heard Ray is in town. He said you turned him away. Call me. My fingers hovered over the screen. So that was it. The family grapevine. The same people who never looked for me when I was 9 were suddenly available now that there was drama to spread. I didn't respond. Instead, I did what I always do. I got methodical. I saved the voicemail. I wrote down the time. I took a screenshot. Receipts. Because if Uncle Ray was going to try to rewrite history, I wasn't going to let him. I'd learned in foster care that the truth doesn't matter if you can't prove it. People believe the loudest voice. The most convincing story. The one who cries hardest. But documents don't lie. And I'd been collecting them since I was old enough to understand power. 2 days later he came back. This time he brought an audience. A woman I recognized immediately. Marlene. She walked into the lobby with Uncle Ray beside her, her lips already pressed into a judgmental line. Uncle Ray raised his voice like he was announcing a reunion. See, he said, pointing at me. She won't even look at me. Marlene shook her head at me. Looney, what's wrong with you? He's sleeping outside. I felt my stomach tighten. Guests in the lobby turned their heads again. A couple near the elevators paused. Uncle Ray's face twisted into practiced misery. I just need a little help, he said. A room. A hot shower. You got a good job. You can put it on your employee discount. My nails dug into my palm. He wasn't here for a conversation. He was here to corner me publicly until I gave in. And if I snapped, I'd look unstable. So I smiled. Small. Professional. Controlled. I can't use employee discounts for personal guests, I said calmly. Uncle Ray's eyes narrowed. Then he leaned closer. Then you can pay full price, he whispered. And Marlene nodded like that was reasonable. Like I owed him a bed because we shared DNA. My coworker Mark stepped closer, protective. Ma'am, he said to Marlene, you can't harass staff. Marlene scoffed. Harass. We're family. Uncle Ray's voice rose. I took her in when nobody wanted her. The lie hit me so hard I saw white for a second. Because it was half true in the most manipulative way. He did take me in. Then he threw me out. But he wanted the credit without the responsibility. Brent came out again, jaw tight. Sir, he said, you're not a guest. You need to leave. Uncle Ray lifted his hands. I'm leaving. But let everyone know what kind of person she is. Then he turned to the lobby and shouted. She was a difficult kid. That's why her own family didn't keep her. My throat closed. 9-year-old me was back on that porch for half a second. But then I felt Mark's hand lightly on my shoulder. And I remembered. I'm not 9 anymore. And I don't need anyone's permission to protect myself. I looked Uncle Ray in the eye and said quietly, Security, please remove them both. Marlene's mouth dropped open. Both. Both, I confirmed. Because enablers are just as dangerous as abusers. That night I met with Brent in his office. He slid a form across the desk. Trespass order, he said. If he shows up again we call the police. No warnings. My chest loosened a little. Thank you, I whispered. Brent hesitated. Looney, I need to ask. Is there anything else we should know? I took out my folder of screenshots and voicemails. I showed him the message. I know where you work now. Brent's face hardened. He threatened you, he said. I nodded. And he's using my job to embarrass me. Brent exhaled. You've done good work here. You're up for that lead shift opening next month. I don't want this affecting you. My stomach twisted. The lead shift opening. The promotion I needed. Uncle Ray wasn't just poking my past. He was threatening my future. And he didn't even know what kind of person he was dealing with now. I wasn't the helpless kid he abandoned. I was someone who documented everything. Someone who understood systems. Someone who knew that staying calm was the most powerful weapon I had. And I was about to use it. The next day Marlene cornered me outside the employee entrance after my shift. She waited by the dumpsters like she was ambushing a criminal. Looney, she said sharply, you're going to help him. I kept walking. Come. Measured. Marlene, don't come to my workplace again. She stepped in front of me. He's your blood. I stopped. My voice stayed even. He left me on a porch at 9. Marlene blinked. That's not what he said. I laughed once without humor. Of course it's not. She folded her arms. He said you were acting out. He said CPS forced you out. I stared at her. Then I said quietly, do you want the truth? Marlene hesitated. I pulled out my phone and opened an old scanned document I kept saved for reasons exactly like this. A copy of the CPS report summary from that night. The neighbor's statement. The date. The time. The words child abandoned. Marlene's face changed. The certainty cracked. And I knew. If she hadn't known the truth she was about to. I watched her read it twice, her face going pale. This is real, she whispered. It is, I said. Marlene's mouth opened slowly. This is real. It is, I said. She looked sick. Ray told everyone you were a handful. I nodded. I was 9. Her eyes flickered, shame creeping in. But he's homeless now, she whispered like that should erase the past. I kept my voice gentle but firm. His consequences aren't my responsibility. Marlene swallowed. So what are you going to do? I stepped closer, lowering my voice. I'm going to stop him from using my workplace. That's what I'm going to do. Then I turned and walked to my car, leaving her standing there with the truth in her hands. And I knew she would call him. And I knew he would panic. Because nothing scares a liar more than documents. I drove home with my hands steady on the wheel, but my mind was racing. Uncle Ray had built his entire approach on the assumption that I'd be too ashamed to fight back. That I'd cave under public pressure. That family guilt would break me. But he'd forgotten something important. I'd survived worse than him. I'd survived being unwanted at 9. I'd survived foster care. I'd survived building a life from nothing. And I wasn't going to let him take it away. He showed up again that weekend. Not in the lobby. In the parking garage. I was walking to my car after closing shift when I heard my name behind me. Looney. I froze, keys clenched between my fingers. Uncle Ray stepped out from behind a concrete pillar like he'd been waiting. His eyes were glassy, his grin too wide. But before I continue with what happened next, if you are enjoying this story, please like and subscribe. Did you show Marlene papers? He asked, voice sharp. My heart hammered. Not fear. Bigger. Because this wasn't a reunion. This was intimidation. I don't owe you a conversation, I said and walked toward the security camera mounted above the exit. Uncle Ray followed. You think you're better than me now, he hissed. I kept my voice calm. I think you need to leave. He stepped closer, blocking my path. Give me 500, he said. My stomach dropped. There was not family, not apologies, money. You're not taking another thing from me, I said quietly. His face twisted. Then I'll make sure your boss knows what kind of kid you were. I smiled. Small. Controlled. My boss already knows you're trespassed, I said. And I pressed the emergency call button on the garage wall. Security arrived fast. Uncle Ray backed up, hands raised like he was innocent. I'm just talking to my niece, he said, voice suddenly sweet. The security guard glanced at me. You want him removed? He asked. Yes, I said steady. Uncle Ray's eyes widened. You'd call security on me? I already did, I replied. He scoffed, but his bravado shook. As security escorted him out, he spat one last line over his shoulder. You're going to regret this when you're alone. The words would have broken me years ago. But now, they sounded like desperation. And desperation makes people sloppy. I watched him get walked to the property line, his shoulders hunched, his voice rising in protest. The security guard handed him a written notice. Visual. Binding. I stood under the harsh garage lights and felt something shift inside me. This wasn't about revenge. This was about protection. And for the first time in my life, I had the power to enforce it. I got in my car and locked the doors. My hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. But I'd done it. I'd stood my ground. Monday morning, HR called me in. My stomach dropped the second I saw Brent's face. He looked tired. Looney, he said quietly, we received a complaint. My hands went cold. A complaint from who? He slid a printed email across the desk. Uncle Ray had emailed the corporate office. He claimed I was emotionally unstable, unsafe around guests, and abusing my position to discriminate against homeless family. My chest tightened. He was trying to weaponize my job against me. And the worst part? HR was required to take it seriously. The HR rep Dana looked at me with polite neutrality. We need your side, she said. I nodded slowly. Then I placed my folder on the table. Voicemails. Dates. Trespass order. CCTV request number from the garage. The CPS report summary. Dana's eyes widened as she flipped through. Brent's jaw tightened. And I watched the narrative shift. Because I had receipts. And Uncle Ray had only his pity act. Dana studied each document carefully. The voicemail where he said, I know where you work now. The screenshots of Marlene's messages. The security incident report from the garage. The neighbor's statement from 22 years ago. Dana leaned back. This is extensive, she said quietly. It has to be, I replied. People like him rely on silence. Brent exhaled. We can pull security footage. Dana nodded. And we can document harassment. Then she looked at me carefully. Do you feel safe? The question made my throat tighten. Because it was the question no one asked when I was 9. No, I admitted. Not when he knows where I work. Dana nodded once. Then we're escalating this. She opened a formal workplace safety report. Not a family drama note. A safety report. And I knew Uncle Ray had just crossed into a system that doesn't care about guilt trips. It cares about liability. Brent cleared his throat. We're also going to have security walk you to your car for the next 2 weeks. And if he violates the trespass again, we're pressing charges. I felt tears prick my eyes, but I blinked them back. Thank you, I whispered. Dana closed her folder. Looney, you did everything right. You documented. You reported. You followed procedure. That's exactly what we train people to do. And for the first time I felt believed. Not pitted. Believed. The hotel issued the official trespass notice through legal. It was clean and formal. If Uncle Ray returned, police would be called. If Marlene returned to harass staff, she'd be trespassed too. Brent assigned a security escort to walk me to my car after closing shifts. Mark started parking his car near mine without saying why. Tessa brought me coffee and quietly squeezed my hand. And for the first time in my life I felt something that made me blink back tears. Support. Real support. Not the kind that costs you your dignity. The kind that protects it. But Uncle Ray didn't fade away. He got louder. And that was the mistake that finally ended him. Because loud people attract attention. And attention invites scrutiny. And scrutiny reveals truth. I went through my shifts that week with a strange sense of calm. I knew he wasn't done. People like Uncle Ray never stop until they're forced to. But I also knew I was ready. I had systems in place. I had people watching. I had documentation that couldn't be argued with. And most importantly, I had finally learned that protecting myself wasn't cruel. It was necessary. One evening I stepped out of the employee entrance and stopped cold. A small crowd stood near the sidewalk. Uncle Ray was there with a cardboard sign. Abandoned by my niece. My stomach dropped. Guests walking in stared at me. Phones came out. Not for social media in my hands. In theirs. My heart pounded. Because this could cost me my job. Uncle Ray saw me and lifted his voice. Tell them why you hate me, he shouted. Tell them how you turned your back on family. I felt the old panic claw at my ribs. Then I did the only thing that would keep me safe. I didn't argue with him. I walked straight back inside. And I called Dana. I need police, I said calmly. He's on hotel property violating the trespass. My hands were shaking but my voice didn't. Dana's tone sharpened. Stay inside. We're handling it. When I looked back through the glass doors, Uncle Ray was grinning like he'd won. He had no idea he'd just stepped onto private property with a legal trespass order attached to his name. I watched through the window as Brent walked outside with the security supervisor. They didn't engage. They just pointed to the property line. Police arrived within minutes. 2 officers approached. Uncle Ray immediately switched to tears. I'm just asking for help, he sobbed. She's my niece. She's heartless. The officer glanced at the sign, then at the hotel manager who handed over the paperwork. Trespass notice. Dates. Signature. The officer's face went blank. Sir, he said, you've been officially barred from this property. You need to leave. Uncle Ray's tears stopped instantly. He straightened. This is harassment. It's not, the officer replied. It's a lawful trespass order. Uncle Ray's eyes darted around, searching for sympathy. Then he pointed at me behind the glass doors. She's lying, he shouted. She was always a problem kid. She got what she deserved. The officer turned back to him. Sir, leave. Now. Uncle Ray took 1 step back, then 2. Then he turned and ran. And that was the moment the second twist hit. Because running from police doesn't make you look like a victim. It makes you look guilty. I watched from inside, my hand pressed against the cold glass. The officers radioed something. Then they started walking faster. And I knew something bigger was about to happen. They caught him half a block away. Not dramatically. Not violently. He tripped over a curb and went down hard. 1 officer helped him up while the other ran his name. Then the officer's face changed. He looked at his partner. Outstanding warrant, he said. My stomach dropped. Because I wasn't expecting that. Uncle Ray froze. What warrant? He snapped. The officer's voice stayed calm. Failure to appear. And a probation violation. Uncle Ray's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. He looked suddenly small. Like the world had finally stopped bending for him. The officer turned him around and cuffed him. Uncle Ray twisted his head, eyes wild, searching through the glass for me. Looney, he shouted, voice cracking. Tell them to stop. I stood still. My hand pressed against the cold glass. And I whispered so quietly no one heard but me. No. Because I'd spent 22 years carrying his abandonment. And I wasn't going to carry his rescue too. Tessa appeared beside me, watching through the window. Is that really your uncle? She asked softly. Not anymore, I said. The next morning Marlene called from an unknown number. I answered once. Looney, she said, frantic. Ray got arrested. He says it's your fault. I breathed slowly. Marlene, I said. He ran from police with a warrant. That's his fault. He swallowed. But he's going to jail. I didn't send him to jail, I replied. His choices did. Marlene's voice cracked. He needs someone. I kept my voice calm. So did I, I said quietly. When I was 9. Silence. Then she whispered, I didn't know. I know, I replied. And I hung up. Because I wasn't going to let family guilt drag me into his chaos again. But then the call came that changed everything. Brent asked to see me in his office. And his face wasn't calm. I walked down the hallway with my stomach in knots. Had Uncle Ray's arrest somehow reflected badly on me? Had corporate decided I was too much drama? Had the promotion I'd been working toward just disappeared? I knocked on Brent's door. Come in, he said. I sat down, hands folded in my lap. And waited. Brent shut the office door and sighed. There's something you need to know, he said. My stomach tightened. Did I do something wrong? No, he said quickly. You did everything right. He slid a paper across the desk. A letter from corporate legal. Uncle Ray had attempted to file a claim against the hotel for discrimination and emotional distress. And he listed me by name. My hands went cold. He's still trying, I whispered. Brent nodded. He's trying to force a settlement. I stared at the paper. Then I looked up. What happens? I asked. Brent's eyes sharpened. We fight it, he said. And then he added something I didn't expect. Looney, corporate reviewed your HR file. They saw how you handled this. My throat tightened. They want you for the lead shift role. Effective immediately. I blinked. What? Brent smiled, small but real. You protected guest. You followed procedure. You documented. You stayed professional under pressure. That's leadership. A heat rose in my chest. Not revenge. Vindication. But then Brent's expression sobered. Still, he said, there's one more twist. He's being released to a shelter program next week. And he put you down as his emergency contact. My stomach turned. Because of course he did. The shelter called me on a Tuesday afternoon. A woman named Rena spoke gently. Miss Harlow, she said, we have Raymond Harlow here. He listed you as family. My fingers tightened around the phone. I'm not his contact, I said calmly. Rena hesitated. He says he has no one else. I closed my eyes. I could picture Uncle Ray smiling through cracked lips, still thinking he could manipulate his way into my life. I have documentation, I said. I can send it. Rena's voice softened. Documentation. A restraining trespass order and harassment file, I replied. I'm willing to send it so you understand why I can't be involved. Rena exhaled. All right. Email it. I sent everything. The CPS report. The voicemails. The HR file summary. The police incident number. The trespass notice. Then I sat back in my chair and waited. Because I knew what would happen when a professional who has no emotional history reads a clean paper trail. They don't hear guilt. They hear risk. And risk has consequences. I went through the rest of my shift in a daze. Every time my phone buzzed, I expected it to be Rena calling back with questions. But it stayed silent until the next morning. Rena called back the next morning. Her voice was different now. Not doubtful. Respectful. Miss Harlow, she said, thank you for sending that. We won't contact you again about Mr. Harlow. My chest loosened. She continued, there's something else. Mr. Harlow told us you abandoned him as a child. I let out a slow breath. No, I said quietly. He abandoned me. Rena paused. I see that now. Then she added, we're adjusting his placement. He won't be in our transitional housing program. He'll remain in emergency shelter with stricter supervision. And we've noted that he can't list you or contact you. I closed my eyes, relief washing through me so hard my hands shook. That was it. No contact. No access. No more surprise appearances. No more public shame. Rena's voice softened. I'm sorry you went through that. I swallowed around a lump in my throat. Thank you, I whispered. And when I hung up I realized something. This was the most accountability Uncle Ray had ever faced. Not from family. From systems he couldn't guilt. From people who looked at facts instead of tears. From documentation that couldn't be manipulated. And it felt like freedom. A month later I walked into the lobby wearing my new lead shift badge. Tessa grinned. Mark gave me a fist bump. Brent nodded at me like he was proud. The hotel felt different now. Not because my past disappeared. Because it stopped controlling the air around me. I never saw Uncle Ray again. Not because something dramatic happened. Because I finally built boundaries so firm they became walls. Marlene sent one last message through a mutual aunt. Ray says he's sorry. He wants to talk. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I deleted it. No reply. No debate. No reopening doors I fought to close. That was the real win. Not watching him suffer. Not hearing him beg. But choosing myself in a way 9-year-old me never could. Because the truth is he didn't suddenly remember we were family. He remembered I was stable. He remembered I was safe. He remembered I was useful. And I finally learned the difference between being loved and being used. So I kept my life. My job. My peace. And I walked forward without him. Some nights I still thought about that little girl on the porch. But now instead of shame I felt something else. Pride. Because she survived. And she built something beautiful from the ruins he left behind.